No questions are going to be allowed for advice or guidance on solution approach. And we can't receive additional materials, to the TPOC or to the SME. We're going to try our best to give you uniform answers to your questions and make sure that they're posted in DSIP. I think the 20th is when the open period starts, and all future questions have to go through the DSIP portal. We're not allowed to do one-on-one anymore at that point. We want to make sure that we protect your proprietary information as companies. And so we advise and ask that if you do put things in the chat, that you do so in a way that protects you. We want to make sure that your hard work remains your work and doesn't get spread out. So that's the AFWorks guidance. The basic idea is we want to keep this fair. We want to try to answer your questions as much as we can ahead of time, give you the information to clarify what you're working towards, and keep it kind of open and free for everyone. We'll let you know just briefly that the meeting is being recorded. We have our Fireflies that's going to be keeping track of it, and it'll help us to log the questions and the answers. There should be a disclaimer in the chat, or there will be shortly. Dayton, if you're willing to put that in while I'm doing this, that would be great. If you have concerns or questions, feel free to either hop off the call or just not communicate in chat, but it's going to be a protective measure both for us and you if we do have this recorded. We're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. We've been working towards this for a while, and you're why we exist. Just super briefly, at SBCC, we're advisory and assistance service providers to the federal government. We're hired by them to find technology that our warfighters need to be and remain superior. What we really like to do is we scour the technology landscape to find things they need, but we really want to hear from them what they want, and then we bring those technologies to them. So our purpose is to help the military work well with businesses and make it easy for business to work well with the military. And since we're hired by the government, we're a free service to you. So we just want you to understand why we're here, why we're coordinating this event. Again, we're so glad you're here. We're thankful. And we are going to go ahead and move over now to the time where we hand it over to Nate and Amber. Sir, you're welcome to jump in and introduce yourself and start answering any of the questions. Nate, are you there? Or Amber?
I can introduce myself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Okay, I was on mute. I was on double mute. Okay, so thank you, Cody.
Yes,
and everyone, welcome. I'm Nate Dawn, the Division Chief of A5N, the Commercial Capabilities Integration and Transition under the A58 General Newman. So we're excited that y'all all are interested, and we're looking forward to answering your questions, to again tap into all the great minds and capabilities there are in the U.S., and hopefully to make our B-52 and other platforms more lethal to defend our nation. So again, welcome, and we'll just I'll hand it off now to Amber. You can kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. I appreciate it. I'm Amber Gilbert. I am the B-52 Digital Transformation Lead in the Program Office for B-52. Definitely looking to help the Program Office continue supporting the aircraft through its remaining however many decades of service life it's going to end up having. So I think I'm ready when you are, Nate.
Thank you, Amber. Cody, I'll kick it back to you.
Sir, so the questions are before you with the ones that have been asked prior, and you're welcome to start going through those or answering any of those that you want to in mass, and then the companies can chime in.
Sure, and it'll be a tag team because I was a B-52 operator, so I'm not a digital engineer or all the engineering expertise like Amber has. So I will cast the vision again. The B-52 is going through some great modifications, modernizations, and will be here for decades to come. New weapons, new communications, new navigation abilities, again, to give the warfighter the best tools that America has to offer. So again, we can fly, fight, and win. I'll start, going down the list. So I might not be able to answer some of these specifically, but I'll do my best, and Amber chime in as well. So it says, do the simulations identified in the RFP need to be executed at full fidelity and provide real results during any of the phases, or is it showing a proof of concept of the simulations or for feedback into the digital twin intent? Again, I'll say, for this phase one effort, we are looking at, what capabilities you provide to either create that digital twin or enable, tools to help create that full digital twin or digital engineering platform. So we're not going to, eat the elephant in one bite or, boil the ocean tomorrow, but we do want to move as quickly as possible. So, it's one of those, it depends. I hope that kind of answers that one. Amber, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I'll go on to number 2. The RFP reads as though the project would primarily focus on mechanical systems of the aircraft, with additional systems such as electronics, avionics, software be included in the digital twin model. I will kind of say yes. Again, ideally we would want the full package, right? And it also is fiscally informed. It has to be affordable. So kind of building a foundation up is, I think, probably the way to go. And Amber may have a different view, which I'll totally be open to. But we want to look at the aircraft as a whole and how it interfaces with new things. Obviously, connection points coupled with power and communication lines and software to talk between the different new systems in the aircraft will be needed. So it will be, but one of the first things I want to be able to do is to interface new things onto the aircraft. Amber, would you like to kind of weigh in?
Yeah, thanks, Nate. I would say that eventually, yes, the additional subsystems that you described, like electronics, avionics, and so forth, should be included in a B-52 digital twin model. I don't know that those need to be the focus of the phase one. I think structural components for the phase one is a good place to start.
Yeah, and let me just jump in real quick, if I may, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, or maybe some newer companies here. This effort is a phase one effort, so this is to produce a feasibility study. We don't need to get incredibly far downfield just yet. We're trying to make sure, can your technology feasibly help us as we try to solve this problem? And so that's what we're working on. And I will say too, Nate and Amber, if you do have any kind of longer introductory comments that you think might answer a bulk of the questions, I think Tim has told us earlier, probably 60% of these are basic things. So feel free to jump in and just kind of give your overall view of answers to some of the basic questions. You can go through them one at a time, but I know there's quite a few.
Yeah, let me just kind of continue on what I was saying as far as kind of the objective. So I was a B-52 radar navigator. I was in Desert Storm and test was a tester. Shot some of the newer weapons, JASM. So I have some experience with integrating things and modernizing things. So the whole intent is to move at a faster pace, do things or take advantage of the technologies that we have now and not continue to rely on antiquated procedures based on, almost non-existent, digital technologies. So we have a couple of threats out there, potential adversaries. They're quite capable themselves in technology. So it's, going from concept to, physical realization is what we're trying to collapse that timeline. And hopefully with a digital twin, that will enable that to get new weapons. We're getting new engines. We're going to have new apertures and stuff, we want to put on the aircraft. So those are the things I would think as an operator, that digital twin capability will help accelerate things. So, that is the long and short of it. And the B-52, you'll see here in numerous articles, we're out to 2050 and beyond because the platform is that robust. So until the B-52 does not provide a useful and affordable mission capability, it will be there for decades to come. So if the B-21 and Sentinel and other, 21st century aircraft are doing digital twin from the start, why not the B-52? We should be there too because we're going to be there just as long. So that's kind of the long and short from the MAGCOM from Global Strike Command, and I'll let Amber talk on what the program office is doing as well, has been, and how that helps them manage the platform from a program office. So Amber, I'll let you talk from here.
Yeah, thanks. I think the program office in general is trying to move away from kind of antiquated legacy paper-based processes to doing all of our processes more digitally. And that's not just engineering, but that's a number of other things. But relevant to this specific conversation, I think some of the things we would like to see the program office able to do using a digital twin would be engineering analysis of modifications, of repairs, of other kind of engineering activities on the aircraft. We would use a digital twin like this to create technical orders and procedures for like our maintainers as well as perhaps our operators. I would foresee us using a digital twin to create training also for a variety of B-52 stakeholders. So SPO members, as well as some of the non-SPO stakeholders I mentioned a second ago. And we could also use digital twin information for supply chain support when we're talking about putting out an RFP and manufacturing and qualifying components from new vendors, things like that. So, I mean, those are just a couple of the examples that we would like to use solid, good 3D data to support. And from the program office side, this would just help basically all of the things that the program office is on the hook to do to keep supporting the fleet for the remainder of that 30 plus year service life Nate referenced. And I think there was a question in the chat that's relevant to this in terms of kind of where where current B52 digital modeling is at. And I'll tell you right now, it's currently pretty minimal. So I think that also speaks to one of the other questions we had in the pre-supplied list, which was asking about what kinds of CAD models already exist and would be provided for this effort. That I will say that for most of B52's tech data exists as PDF scans of 2D data. So we would provide everything that we had of that, but that is the vast majority of it would be in 2D PDF scans. What little we have of 3D data is mostly, I believe, in CATIA, though there may be also some NX in there too, in terms of things that we would be potentially providing to you guys as a SBIR participant. So I think that kind of speaks to the digital modeling. There's not much, and what does exist we would be happy to share with you guys to incorporate into digital twin efforts, but you're going to start from a pretty basic standpoint, I think. Nate, back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. And you know that's why we're doing this, because as Amber said, you know, we don't have much data. We have a lot of paper, but nothing, you know, electronically to the scale like a B-21 or F-35 or, you know, these 21st century systems. But doesn't say we shouldn't strive for it. So Amber and Program Office is doing a great job, and we here at the MAGCOM want to help enable that and partner to, you know, we're all on the same team. We want to make the B-52 the best tool for DoD defense. So that's the name of the game for the competition, the great power competition against our potential adversaries. So let's see, I'll look at another question here. How fast does the digital twin need to be updated after implementation? You know, that I don't know the answer to that, but you know, as tools come available, you know, and it's affordable, we'll always want to update it. I will say that we want to, you know, we will own this digital data. One thing that we do not want is vendor lock, and that's what's happened in the past, and we want to be able to, you know, freely use this digital model to, you know, partner with other companies, you know, in the future to, again, integrate and implement, you know, great technology, again, to make the B-52 the most lethal and credible platform against the adversary. Let's see. I guess the need to develop a full, precise 3D CAD and SysML model in phase one. You know, it's an ask. Again, if it's too much, then, you know, it is what it is. But at least, thank you. At least, you know, we asked for it, right? Maybe someone has it. So, you know, again, I'm not going to water down things. I need highly accurate models so I can, you know, put a new rotary launcher in a B-52 virtually, or I can, you know, form fit a new aperture on the top of a fuselage, and I know I'm not going to break into a fuel tank or whatnot. So it needs to be as precise as possible, and we're looking for novel tools and capabilities to do that. So if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, but you know, we're asking. Amber, do you have any comments on that one?
Yeah, I would second your statement that the eventual goal is full and precise 3D CAD and SysML modeling of a full B52, and even to the extent that eventually we would like to get to tail-specific full and precise 3D CAD modeling. That said, I don't expect that we can achieve all of that through just a phase one SIBR. So as needed, I think if we need to focus on some specific subsystems for the initial feasibility study part of it to show what we can do with some specific subsystem or systems for full and precise 3D CAD and SysML modeling, I think that's totally appropriate and fine. But yes, eventually we would like to get there, but for a full scale for B-52 fleet in a phase one, I'm not expecting that out of that out of anybody. This is the feasibility portion of the project as stated previously.
Right. Another question, who will provide necessary data about the sensors, fuel tanks, fuel pipes, plane control systems, etc.? Again, program office has been working this for a while. Amber, you'll have to, say to what level you can share that data, but the data that we have, that we own, we'll share to the extent we can. And we're, basically looking to create data. So there may be someone that has novel tools and stuff that we're interested in using, and we don't expect them to provide the model because that's not their area of expertise. We will be finding a company to do that for this digital twin effort. So, if you have something that you think is compelling for us to see, let us take a look. Amber, would you actually touch upon, is there any data that you're developing that would be able to be shared with a company that we would have on contract, if they have some sort of tool to implement based on our data?
Yeah, we don't have much. We are getting some deliverables, for example, under the SERP project, which is the Commercial Engine Replacement Program, that is a more modernized 3D CAD approach. That's one of the few areas where we would actually have some 3D data to provide versus 2D blueprints or scans thereof. So in the case that we have more detailed and more modern tech data, we will happily share that with a company who would like to incorporate that into a full-scale digital twin of the aircraft. If we're talking about data to the extent that we're talking about like aircraft sensors and those kinds of things, I think at this point in time, I'd like to get us to where we have a good and complete static twin before we start talking aircraft sensors and incorporating real-time information from those kinds of things. Would I like to get there? Yes, but that's a much further thing down the road than this phase one.
Thank you, Amber. Mm-hmm. Another question is, can you provide more information about what you expect from the CAD models and SysML models? How will therefore be used? What problems are typically encountered with the current methods of achieving this? We already kind of talked about it, but the reason why I bring this up is, so I'm not an engineer, but I've heard CAD models for decades. I'm not as familiar with SysML, and Amber can answer that, but I am familiar with finite element models. I know that acoustic vibe models, I think, is very important based on my past experience in programs. So, these models already exist. So, but that doesn't mean we have a digital twin of the B-52. So there's other things that, create that digital engineering, digital twin. So we already use those models, except for I don't know about the SysML, but, we're looking for more than that, to emulate in the digital domain to, again, like Amber said, burn down, you know, integration timelines and also reduce the training timelines. You're using these tools for virtual reality training, as well. Better understanding how things connect to each other in a precise manner. So hopefully that answers someone's question that yes, we're gonna, use these models and more, but we already use them today. Amber, can you expound on that from your perspective?
Yeah, so some of the problems we run into with the existing setup is there is a lack of 3D data. So, just for starters, that's a thing that we need is 3D data to start with. Even in cases where we do have 3D data, though, most of our data lives in the tools that they're associated with, or they're on like random common drives somewhere. They're not really going through, they don't live in a configuration management environment that you might see in like a PLM sort of tool. There's just a number of issues that we run into, but I think one of the biggest ones that a digital twin could potentially help with is kind of connecting information together as relates to the aircraft itself. So right now it's pretty difficult to see like if I change something on one part of the aircraft, what impact does that have on other parts of the aircraft? And it takes a lot of time and effort to find that answer. Whether we're talking physics-based modeling or we're talking interfaces or size, weight, and power, cooling type constraints. So getting to a place where we have the 3D and SysML type models that can help us do those types of impact analyses, I think is one of the big goals for us when we're talking digital twins. And if we're talking specific tail numbers, I think I saw a question in the chat a second ago about how much variation there is between different tail numbers. Now, keeping in mind, we're talking phase one, right? So phase one, this is probably not applicable to. I think for a phase one, at most, we're looking to getting toward an as designed 3D representation of a full B-52. But if we're talking further down the road, kind of end goal concept that we would start directing things toward in a phase one setting is there is some pretty significant variation between the different aircraft through time, whether we're talking about a modification that'll take a few years to get implemented on every single tail, or if we're talking about as flown and as repaired and as maintained descriptions of each individual tail. That's not something we have a good capability to track right now, and we need that, I think, in the long term. So there can be pretty significant variations between them just based on the fact that they've all flown different missions and undergone different stresses and so forth and had different repairs applied to them. So hopefully that kind of answers some of the question of problems that we run into with how we can use our current data versus how we would like to. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Amber, there's other questions you would probably be able to answer that I can't, like, what CAD package is preferred?
Yeah, I think we answered what kind of CAD we were talking about earlier. But I think what most of our small amount of existing 3D data today is in CATIA. I'm not necessarily saying that's our only option, but most of what we have for the moment's in CATIA. But based on some of the the big Air Force digital things that are ongoing, CATIA may or may not make the most sense. So I'm open to discussion of things like CATIA, but also like SolidWorks and if we're talking SysML, Cameo's a good answer. If we're talking 3D, then CATIA and NX and SolidWorks could all be part of the conversation. Yes, we would like to use digital twins for diagnostics and prognostics, but that's further down the road than a phase one, I think.
Amber, do you see the other two live questions there?
I'm looking at, so how do we configuration manage and control interfaces today?
And remember, if you feel a question's not suitable or appropriate, we're trying to get, this, we want to avoid scope creep here, really trying to make sure we're getting specific information about topic requirements. So you answer as you see suitable within that scope.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about current processes for configuration management and interface control, they're very paper-based legacy processes, and it takes a lot of time and effort to truly understand impacts and make sure that we're changing all related information when there's a change that gets made in one part of the aircraft. So if you're providing a proposal or at least information about your capability for a digital twin, then talk about configuration management and interface control. That sounds like a good topic to include. If we're talking, I'm seeing the earlier question as well about the target simulation environment. What we're trying to implement is a Cloud One based capability, and that I think is so cloud-based is important. So Cloud One is where we're going. If we're talking the rest of the digital environment and the tools that are available therein, I don't know that that's particularly relevant right this instant outside of the CAD discussion we've already had. And then accredited simulation environment.
So I don't know if they're talking about, part of it is, could this be used in the sim world, the distributed mission operations, DMO, if we have a no kidding digital model of the B-52, it can be in virtual war games, so, all the kind of the actions and the interactions are realistic to what it would be in actual flight. So, if we could use it for that case, in the future, that would be great. Definitely it's good for testing of, employment of, new weapons or new avionics and stuff like that, hopefully it's realistic in that simulated environment that would reduce live open air testing. I've heard some of those ideas and concepts, and again, anything to burn down the time to integrate and test and field, and to be more cost effective, because it costs millions of dollars to get on test ranges and time to get on a test, scheduled on a test range. So anything that we can have a robust simulated environment to conduct testing, at least developmental testing and integration, that would be great. Over.
Yep, agreed. I think if we're talking about an accredited simulation environment, that I don't know that that would be part of a phase one. But yes, we would like to be able to get there. But I don't have a specific simulation environment in mind right this instant. But that could depend on kind of where Big Air Force goes as well.
One general question: how much time will be supported from the Air Force side to assist in questions and coordination during phase one, weekly, bi-weekly coordination meetings? To Tim or Cody, you want to? I think we touched upon this. During the phase one, we'll have a project manager, kind of assisting the companies that are on contract for the phase one. So, as needed. You want to expound upon that? Did I say anything wrong?
Hey, Nate. Yeah, I mean, I'd say, as part of the feasibility study, we're planning on, completing the requirements in a collaborative way. So, our role within the CCIT is to do what we can to help integrate and transition your commercial technology to meet the government needs, right? Usually on the front half or in the very beginning of things, there's a lot more touch points. And then, once we kind of develop into a battle rhythm, they're a little bit more scheduled, but we're there kind of to serve as a concierge, really, right? Like we'll work with the government, but we'll have a project manager there that is focused specifically on this initiative, and that'll be the company's touch points to engage with the government and to get those answers. And so there are active and engaged TPOCs and government representatives to make sure that this initiative will be a success. Over.
Thanks. Another question: will the Air Force provide access? Oh no, I'm not going to touch that one. We already did. Let's see which one I want to touch upon. Shoot. Oh yeah, does the Air Force recommend partnering with a prime for this topic to help with the integration efforts? The answer is no. That's what we're trying to avoid. The prime is, the OEM is busy enough. So this is, looking at other companies to, get those capabilities. And that's why you have people like Amber from the B-52 program office that is in charge and will kind of help guide that. So that's not a requirement. Let's see. I'm just reading down the list to see what's pertinent. I guess I'll go to the live question. Are there any specific integration standards, protocols that the digital twin must adhere to when connecting with other systems or products, especially in an accredited simulation environment? Oh, Amber, that would be yours. I wouldn't be able to answer that one. I don't know if that's a question. I don't know. I mean, that goes back to that accredited simulation environment.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that one today.
Yep.
Nate, what I could propose maybe is, on that is that would likely be a question that was going to require further assessment, right? That would be answered in the feasibility study. So it's not necessarily that you're going to have that answer right away, but it is a good question to assess, because when you or when a company is going to submit a phase 2 follow-on or a TAC-FI or a STRAT-FI, right? One of the questions that we have to address are just the remaining technical risks that are left to accomplish or to mitigate So, if for things like that are into the weeds in a lot of ways, I would say, as a company, or if you do make a proposal for this, definitely keep note of those questions so that we can address them if you are selected for award in this, and that we can help you get those answers in the feasibility study. Over.
Yep, thanks. This question on desired commercialization approach to maintain exclusivity with Air Force, or does customer provide that we find other customers for the digital twin technology? So in our specific topic call, we're trying to find a solution for the B-52. It could be for the solution could be utilized for other platforms in the Air Force or other services. So, when we talk about commercialization, it's not just, the commercial airline sector or whatnot. I think they outpace us right now. So, the term commercialization could be other platforms within the DoD. So, we're not driving your train to, or guide you to specific sectors. We're just concentrating on what you can provide to us for our use case and need. So I hope that answers your question. Amber, do you have anything to add on
that? No, I think you got it.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We'll take a look at this next question here online. If I had understood you all correctly, during phase 1, your requirement entails creating a digital representation B-52 aircraft with specific emphasis on structural components. Such a digital twin will essentially be a three-dimensional CAD model along with SysML representation. I will stop there because, again, there's more, right? There's the finite element models, again, Amber's your area, but, we're not just looking for what we said. We are looking for, hey, what is out there? What is the unknown unknowns? Maybe there's a new model that we're not aware of that's, was invented or fielded last week. So we're not trying to confine the path, the methodology. We're looking for new things that are going to work. It has to work, and that we're interested in supporting and pursuing.
Hey, Nate, can I jump in here for you to provide
Sure,
some context? All right, thanks. So Satish, what I would try to keep in mind here, right? And I'm not going to be able to speak to the specific topic or anything, about the TPOC in this proposal, right? But I will speak in a general overview of the AFWERX specific topics and open topic processes and the programs. And in the phase 1 section, right, where for this particular phase 1, it's a scope of $180,000 and it's a 6-month period of performance. Right. So I think if you kind of look at it logically, right, that's a lot to do for phase 1 for that. And so we're not actually looking to well, let's say the ideal proposal, right, for the phase 1 is to conduct a feasibility study. So it's like a research project. You're gonna kind of give a snapshot about your technology or your solution and what you can offer, right, and how it applies to the defense need that Mr. Don here and Ms. Gilbert are talking about. But You'll also talk about, any sort of commercial traction that you have, and then maybe throw some possible approaches of how you would take your technology or your solution and then apply it to solving the problem. From there, then, once you're selected for the phase one, that's whenever we're going to sit down and figure out, okay, well, what exactly are we trying to do here? And you're going to build a scope out for a phase two, which is going to be $1.8 million and up to, I think, a 24-month period of performance. And that's whenever you're going to be like, okay, well, we're going to do a full digital representation of the wing, right? Because that's all we can do for 1.8 million or whatever it's going to be. So you'll find out and use, the context that you learn in the feasibility study to actually propose the work to be accomplished in the phase two. So, as a kind of a heuristic, you look at it as like, we're a research project for the phase one, maybe a little bit of prototyping in here to validate some assumptions, but, ideally, a lot of the work and things will be accomplished in phase two. Is that a good explanation, Nate?
Yes, you're spot on. Thank you for bringing that up. So, yeah, phase one is, a short period of time, and, we're evaluating your capabilities and feasibilities for participation in implementation on, the overall digital twin objective is the big elephant. So, we're starting now and we're trying to get a fast start. So looking for those great technologies and great tools and abilities to, get a running start for what's needed to keep the B-52 as modern as possible to compete against our adversaries.
Nate, are you satisfied with with the answer given to the question in the live and the answers you've given to the others, or do you want a few more minutes here? We've still got about 10 minutes left.
I'm satisfied. I'd just like to keep, opening up for any additional comments or questions.
Sure.
Amber, any other kind of thoughts coming up that you'd like to share?
I no, I think just seconding the part where, this is a phase one. So while we'd like to see, yes, some kind of, an understanding of the feasibility of your capability to kind of work with with B-52's current data to then create the full-scale digital twin, and what all the different capabilities would be that you could include in that, I think is kind of where we're at right now for the phase one. Is just, there's all kinds of things that can or maybe even should be included in a digital twin, and we're looking to understand the different companies' capabilities for level of fidelity, what kinds of physics-based modeling and analysis your product can support, and just so on and so forth from there. So I'm excited to see kind of what comes out of this process and how we can help keep the B-52 flying for another several decades.
And this probably goes without saying, but just in case folks aren't clear, that at the Q&A, the Q&A at the bottom of your screen is the way to submit questions. So if any of you are wondering how you get those in, just make sure you hit that. You got about 9 minutes left to ask any final questions. I do see an additional one there. Nate or Amber, if you would like to field that.
Yeah, I'll field that one. As far as operators and stuff, to their availability. So again, everyone's busy. It's hard to even get operators on the staff to get, participate in meetings, over the decade. I am a former operator. Again, 24 years. I've done combat. I've done testing, operational testing of major weapons and systems. So I'm here, and other people on my staff, former operators. That's what we're here for, is to kind of guide that process during the phase one. As far as access to the aircraft, I don't really think we'll be able to swing that during the phase one. If it makes total sense to do that, there's a jet here on base. We call it's a trainer. We'd have to do a lot of coordination. It just, we would have to have a strong justification, but right now we weren't planning on, giving access to an aircraft during the phase one. Over.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the companies out there? Is there a chance to talk to the, we have one that's come in. When will this recording be posted? That's a good question. We will, it looks like Dayton's coming back with an answer. Thank you, Dayton. About 7 more minutes to ask questions of the technical point of contact, subject matter expert.
I would say there was a previous question. I don't know if it was answered. What's the difference between the digital engineering environment and digital twin? For the people that aren't savvy, it may be, kind of intertwined unintentionally, but the bottom line is we need as detailed a digital representative of a B-52 to integrate new weapons, new systems. We also want to do what Amber said, on the repair side and tech orders and procedures. That was a big pain point as a tester, because that's part of our certification process where we recommend to field, and one of them is the tech orders. Training can be utilized for this digital model as well, and supply chain, and the list goes on and on. So we may use some terms, kind of intertwine inappropriately, but the intent is what I just described. Overall security classification for the effort. So that's a good question. So it will be ITAR, if we have that fidelity, because the B-52 is a weapon system. We can't let this data fall into our enemies, right? So there will be ITAR restrictions. It will definitely be CUI. I think that's probably to the level at this point in time. There are some systems that are more sensitive in different respects, but in the physical model, I think at this point it's probably all CUI to my knowledge. Amber, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, for phase one especially, definitely CUI and ITAR restrictions. I don't anticipate any further classification for the phase one. For phase two or further, still primarily trying to work in those realms, but there may be some secret level, possibly. But it kind of depends on how we want to use the twin. And I would add to, if we're talking about the difference between the environment and the twin, then the environment is just kind of where we host our digital data processes, tools, and models. And then the digital twin itself is the 3D modeling with capabilities of understanding what's going on with individual tail numbers or different physics-based simulations and so forth over time. But
yeah, that's a great explanation. Yeah, I like that. That helps me too. I fully agree, and that makes total logical sense. Can you describe what is painful about the certification process and how I think I already answered that. You know, everything is very paper and very manual. So, and you know, we have to fly things, you know, to validate models. We're hoping to collapse that with the digital twin. Okay.
Got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
Joel, would you be willing to, uh-oh. Okay.
No, I said I'll just pause, you know, for any last minute questions.
Yeah. We'll wait for a moment, see if anything comes in. Joel, would you be willing just to put in the chat my email address if folks think of questions at the last minute and don't get them in, that they can send those to me. Do be aware, as we've said before, that all questions need to be sent to DCIP, the Defense Cyber Center Innovation Portal after, well, I guess starting September the 20th. So make sure that you have that knowledge and can forward your questions there. Still nothing. I do want to say, as we're kind of wrapping up, thank you, companies, for coming in and being part of this. Nate and Amber for giving your expertise and helping us to defend our country better. Really appreciate all the time and effort. Let's see. We do have, for the companies, if you're interested, as we continue to make efforts like this possible, if you go to smallbcc.com, there's a join our network button. You can hit that, and that will put your information into our system, and then we can follow up in future events as that's needed and helpful. So just make sure you're aware of that. Yep. Thank you for that, Joel. Let's see, where are we on time? Still about 1 more minute left.
There's
suck
one
another
question
question
here. If AI ML tools are used to consume printed documents, what limitations might be placed on hosts of these AI ML systems? What limitations might be placed on the hosts? I don't know quite how to answer that one.
So Nate, I could probably help you out here, right? If it helps, but in a lot of ways, right, and especially with the way that AFWorks is you know, in the CMMC guidance where AFWorks has for a lot of these contracts that are going out now, is that you are going to have to comply with NIST 800-53. Depending on the data rights or what would be there, right? You may end up having to look at 800-171. However, you know, the consuming the documentation and developing the models and on all of that stuff is likely going to occur in your phase 2 scope, right? So that would definitely be a discussion that I would recommend writing down, and then, you know, having that, getting an answer to that in your feasibility study.
All right, very good. Well, we are at the hour. Thank you all for your participation, and we look forward to working with you guys to help your company grow and help our military become more efficient and effective. Thanks again, everyone.